on Nunam and Aleph, top scroll. Find the place, everybody. Ralph Patesh has joined. He's getting ready to join in. How you doing, Adam? Doing good?
Yeah.
Morning, Ralph. Boker Tov. Yeah. Try to admit Ralph. Two people in the waiting room. Ralph, are you on? So it's joining. Asaf is here. See what's happening here? Mit. Ralph is on. Okay, everybody. Hope you're doing well. We see Ralph is back and better than ever. We had a lot of traffic on the FTR drive real back up,
Yeah, I figured that.
big time.
Mhm.
Um, but we're here. Morning, Asaf. I told the driver we have to find out on Sunday night before, to make sure what's going on. Okay, we're on Nun and Aleph, 50A, and Montana, the Polig Allah, the Rab Shimon Gamliel. Who's the Tana that argues on Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? So in the art scroll, it's 58-2. It's middle of the page. Who is the Tana who argues on Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? If you recall, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said that if you have the branches of the palm tree, that you went ahead and you cut the branches for the purpose of wood, right? The branches that have become very hard, the leaves has fallen off, and it's hard like a stick, and therefore you cut it for wood purposes, fuel purposes, which makes it mukse. Let me just separate it from it because you don't burn wood on the Shabbat. And if you change your mind and you want to use this wood as a cushion, as a seat, as they used to, a lot of times they would sit on the floor. Therefore, you would want to have some cushion for you. So the fact that you changed your mind now, you want to use it for a cushion, is that good enough that it's no longer mukse? Just having a mind that I want to use it now I plan on using it for, at least for this Shabbos, at least for a cushion, is that good enough? Or do I have to tie it? So Rav Shimon Gamliel said, just having in mind I'm going to use it for a cushion is good enough. And even if I didn't designate, it seems I think we saw, even if you don't designate it permanently, in kind of a rock, you would need permanent designation that I want to use it permanently as a door stopper or something. But for a cushion, the wood, which was your intention that made it muksa, was your thought that you want to use it for firewood. So just thinking now that I want to use it even for the Shabbos for a wood stopper, a door stopper, should be good enough. We have to just double check that. But the Tanakama, the first opinion, said that no, you're required to actually um, tie tie the wood. You have to do an action in the wood by tying the piece of wood together. That shows by that the item is standing for now. It's no longer firewood. Firewood you don't tie together. You leave it loose. So the Gemara says, who is that author? Who is the Tana that holds that the strict opinion? Because he's not named by there's no name on him. The Gemara says Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva. The author of that is Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva. Rabbi Chanina, the son of Rabbi Akiva. And where do we find that? The Chi'ata Rav Dimi Rav Ziri. When Rav Dimi came back, and he came back and he said in the name of he came back and he said in the name of Rav Ziri, who said in the name of Rav Chanina. On Pam Achat, one time, one time we had this rabbi, Rav Chanina ben Akiva, who went to a certain place. He found these pieces of wood, this palm tree hard pieces of wood, and that they cut them for the purpose of firewood. And he told his students, Su'u. So the rabbi told the students, Su'u, go out, think about it, have in mind, he said that I want you to go ahead and see to it that we could use these wood tomorrow for the purpose of a cushion. So the rabbi told his students that go ahead and figure out this wood, that this hard pieces of the palm tree that was cut for wood. You gotta remove the status of muksa from this because we want to use it tomorrow. And want to use it tomorrow, we want to move it around. So you got to think about how, meaning su'u v'chishvu, think about it, meaning designate it for the purpose of sitting. Kedei sheneshav aleim l'macha. If you designate it for the purpose you plan on using as a chair, so then we could sit on it tomorrow. We could move it around tomorrow. If you have that mindset that you're going to use it for a cushion. V'lo yadana, and we don't know. I don't know. Ibeta mishtahave, ibeta avalhave. Meaning to say, I know that Rav Chanina, the son of Rabbi Akiva, mentioned in his words to his students that you have to have in mind that you're going to use it as a cushion. But I don't know the story behind it, the backdrop. There was a wedding going on? They were involved in a wedding. Maybe they were having a wedding feast. It's very common. The people, they used to get married on Friday, and Friday night was the meal of celebration.
Sounds efficient.
It's efficient for a lot of poor people. Like Zach is very efficient because the big meal Friday night. Anyway, you make a big meal, see, so it doesn't take so much more. See, you embellish the meal, you make it nicer, but it's not much easier as Adam says. And I don't know if it was a story. It was a beta mishtahave or beta avel have, beta avel, or it was a place because there were a lot of people sitting. A lot of people came before Shabbat, and they were maybe members of the family all came together because they lost a loved one, and therefore Shabbat was going to be a lot of people, a lot of guests in the house, and they needed a place for people to make sure people have a place to sit. Or maybe therefore they wanted to make sure they had they don't sit shiva on Shabbat, but they need to make sure they have a proper seating that on Shabbat they have to sit down that the cushions are not muksa, that they need extra seating. So you can take the wood that was cut for fuel purposes to feed the fire. We'll use that wood for a cushion. But you need to you have to, at least he says to them, you need to go ahead and sit on it, or not sit on it, sorry. You have to think about using it as a chair, right? By thinking about that you're going to use it for a chair, that you're going to that designation that using it for a chair. Again, it doesn't say permanent designation, but that would be good enough. Now, so the Gemara says it's dafka beta avel or beta mishta. It seems the report mitakama, since the rabbi said, the rabbi um, meaning this rabbi who's telling over the story. Zeiri says in the name of Chanina. But of Chanina, there's two Chaninas here. There's Chanina ben Akiva. Rabbi Chanina says in the name of Rabbi Chanina, the son of Akiva, that there was an allowance just by designating it for sitting, without doing an action, without tying the wood together. But when he gives the report, when Chanina says the name of Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva, that was what the rabbi said, he also said that he doesn't know what the situation was that the rabbi said, what exactly, whether it was a story of what they needed for a wedding, because a wedding situation, or whether it could have been Sheva Brachot, Adam, and Shabbat Chatan, as they call it, or Sheva Brachot, the Shabbat Brachot, if after the wedding. Maybe it was because of that they needed the chairs. So, but the fact that he said that that was the situation, there was a situation where everybody was very busy, right? When there's a wedding preparation, or people coming over for a festive Shabbat Chatan, or Chas v'Shalom, if there's a mourning situation, there's a lot of people coming because there was someone passed away. People are very busy. It's a very busy time. So because it was a very busy time, maybe that's why the rabbi said maybe that's why you don't need to tie the wood. Maybe they didn't require under such circumstances that level of doing an action. But in general, it would seem like then they would require to do an action. So and therefore he is the Tana, he is the source. We find that Reb Chanina ben Akiva holds that under normal circumstances, to remove something from being mukseh, it's not enough just to designate it for a Shabbat, for one Shabbat. Rather, you have to go ahead and do an action. But there's a leniency under a special circumstance, like the need of the wedding or the mourning, that the mourning situation, that they said it's enough just to think about it, having in mind to use it for the Shabbat. That's what the Gemara says. The Kama ibeta mishtahavi ibeta avel have. Since he says he doesn't remember if the story was because they were celebrating or because it was mourning, so we see treaty, because the people are busy with regarding the mourning or regarding the celebration, and they don't have time to necessarily to do all the things to tie the wood before Shabbat. But over here, when you don't have that situation, kasha ain, only if you tied it, low kasha low. If you didn't tie it, it will not be sufficient and it will remain muksa. Now, I think we saw the Shulchan Aruch on that. Let's see in the back over here. In this, they have in the Resifta, they bring the halacha. Let's see over here, so you find it very fast. Take a look. We are on Nun Amad Aleph, 50a. So he says, branches of a tree that you cut for the purpose of burning for wood purposes. Now they are, it's not for, you didn't cut it for seating purposes. It's mukseh. You're separated from it. You can't move it. But if you sat on it a little bit before Shabbat, that's one way that you mean that sitting on it is enough. And certainly if you tied it together, or if you just thought about using it as a chair, doesn't say full, so far we don't see forever. You thought about using it as a chair. So let's see, they have a number here, tough, kuf dalid. He says, they say on the bottom that you did it, this action before Shabbat, or you had in mind that you're going to sit on it. They don't here. They don't go into too much detail. Um, they don't go all the details over here. Okay, so we'll have to look at again the Mishabura to remind us of the details. But what we recall, I think, if I'm correct, that when it comes to a stone, you have to have permanent designation. That's going to be a door stopper. And I think for other things, I think we said it might not necessarily need permanent designation. At least I'm designating it for this Shabbat. I'm using it, I had in mind, I'm using it, just having in mind, I'm using it for a bench. That might be enough without having necessarily a permanent designation. Okay, now we're on Amma Rabbi Yehuda. Coming up a very interesting point over here. Rabbi Yehuda, we are on 58 too. Machnis Adam Melo Kupato Afa. A person could bring in, let's say you bring in a basket full of dirt into your house. Now we know dirt is mukseh, right? You have a pile of dirt in your backyard. What is you can't not, but not have a spill, you in your backyard and on Shabbat and somebody spilled, there was a child there and they made a big spill, and now you want to, so in the old days, one of the things that they used to use is you take dirt and you throw it on top of the spill, and that takes away the spill. Now you cover the spill. Or if there was saliva or whatever it was, you cover it up. That was one of the things today, in meat butcher stores, because there's a lot of wet, a lot of, it's very wet in butcher stores. So a lot of times they have sawdust on the ground. Years ago, they would have sawdust. Ralph, you remember that? Do you ever remember that? Sawdust? We don't see sawdust around too much, right? When was the last time we saw some sawdust around, Ralph?
Can't remember.
I can't remember. I grew up with it, My father had a meat store, so
Mm.
I grew up with the sawdust. So the sawdust absorbs the liquid, and therefore, so here we have over here dirt. The dirt also does that trick. It will absorb the liquid, but dirt by itself, when Shabbat comes, if you went ahead and you had a bag of dirt that's made for the purpose of throwing it on a liquid, that if you have a spill, take out the dirt, then that bag of dirt is made for that purpose, and it's made that's not a mux if you're not separated from it, because you might have a situation on Shabbat that you need to cover up a spill. That would not be mukseh. But we're not talking about having a 5-pound bag of dirt, right? We're talking about having a dirt that was not made for the purpose of of for the spill. It's not that you bought that 5-pound bag in the supermarket. It's that you want to have, it's your regular dirt that's outside your house. It's that dirt, when Shabbat comes, it's not you're not thinking about using it for spills. It's not commonly used for spills. Shabbat comes, it's just a pile of dirt. You're separated from using it on Shabbat. So dirt is mukseh, right? Average dirt that's in the street, right? Let's say well, average dirt you have, if you would have piles of dirt, that pile of dirt would be mukseh. But there's a way that you could go ahead and remove the status of mukseh from that dirt. What do you need to do to remove? How do you make dirt not mukseh? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda says, you could, if you bring in a basket full of dirt before Shabbat, and the osabo kol tzrachav, he's of the opinion that if you bring it in, the Gemara is going to say, and you designate a specific place. You don't put the dirt in the middle of the house that people can walk on, and it becomes like part of the ground, like all other dirt. You put it into a corner. Machnas adam melo kupato. You could put in a basket full of dirt, and you could use it. Now, if you bring it into the house, you could use it. It's not mukseh. So it seems that what your thought of using it is good enough, right? You went ahead and you had in mind to use it you had in mind to use it on Shabbat, you had in mind to use it during the week, you had in mind to use this dirt. You could use it also because you could do whatever you want with the dirt. And Darish Mazuta, Mazuta Rabbah, and Mazuta expounded in the name of Mazuta Rabbah, you designate a specific spot in the house, not if you put in the center of the house, of the floor, where everybody walks, so they're going to walk on it, it'll be just like every other dirt in the house, which is mukseh. But if you put a specific place in that corner of the house, you put the dirt in the corner of the house, then it's not mukseh. So the Gemara is going to say, whose opinion? This seems to be like the opinion of the Rabbanan. You don't have to do an action in the item, right? You didn't do any action. You just had thought that I'm going to use this item for a permitted use, right? Amar Rabbanan kamed Rapapa. Rabbi said in front of Rapapa, come on, which Tana, which opinion does he hold like? Good morning, Boker Tov. Good to see you. So he says, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, right? This seems to be in sync with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that says, just like by the wood that you had made for the purpose of firewood, that when you just the fact that you went ahead and you had a mind to use it as a bench, it's no longer mukseh, right? You took the firewood, wood that you cut from the tree, which you originally cut it for the purpose of firewood. If it's going to be fuel, it's mukseh, right? That's mukseh. Firewood is mukseh on Shabbat. You have nothing to do with firewood on Shabbat, right? What do you do with fire? You can't feed a fire on Shabbat. You can't throw the wood in. But we said if you had a mind, welcome to the class. We have about 6 minutes left to the class. Every minute counts. So what do we say by the firewood? The fact that you had a mind, if you change your mind, and you had a mind that you're going to use that firewood not as firewood. I have a mind I want to use it for a cushion. I want to use it to sit on. It's no longer mukseh. So it seems that this halacha that the Rabbi Yehuda says that you could bring in a basket full of dirt on Shabbat, and having in mind that I want to use it for a permitted purpose, I want you to use the dirt for cleaning up a spill by throwing the dirt on the spill. The fact that I had that in mind before Shabbat, it's no longer mukseh. The thought that I'm going to use this dirt before Shabbat, I brought it into the house. Number one, I brought it into the house, and also I put it into a specific spot in the house. I didn't leave it in the center of the ground where everybody walks on, where it becomes part of the ground again. So that seems to be like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. That seems to be in sync with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's opinion. Because the Ikar Rabbanan, of course, according to Rabbanan, the Rabbanan say you need Ha'amir Bina Maaseh to remove something from a status of mukseh, something that was mukseh. right? Like the wood that was cut for the purpose of firewood. At that moment, now that it was cut for firewood purposes, it has a status of mukseh, right? Because it's used for firewood. Now you want to remove its status of mukseh. What do you got to do? The Rabbanan say you have to tie the wood together in a way that people now see when you tie this piece of wood with another piece of wood, it shows you now it's there for the purpose of a cushion. But if you don't tie it together, so when you tie it together, that's how people use it as a chair. But if you don't tie it together, the thought that you're using as a cushion is not good enough. So too, it seems this having the thought of, of using this dirt as um, as a cleanup to absorb the spills would not be sufficient because you didn't do an action in the dirt itself. And some of the commentary, one of the I think the Ran says, even though you brought it into the house, but the bringing into the house is not the Gemara is not considering it an action in the thing itself, because first of all, you could say you didn't do anything specific in the. If you look at the dirt itself, the dirt is the same what it was outside and inside. Maybe it's the dirt is going to be used as part of your dirt floor. You didn't do anything. You put the dirt from the outside into the inside into the corner. Maybe you're using it as you're going to plan on using it as if there's an issue with the floor that the floor it needs a filler. Maybe you can use it as a filler to the floor. It's not clear. There's no change in the actual dirt. See, when you go ahead and you take wood and you tie wood together, you did something in the wood itself. You see clearly the wood is now talking. How is the wood talking? When you see the piece of wood tied together, it's clear. There's no question about that wood, what it's doing now. Now that you tied it together, it's not fuel wood. You would not tie the sticks. If you don't tie the sticks together, if you tie it together, it's clearly that the cushion. Here, the fact that you brought the dirt in the house does not say that dirt is going to be used specifically to clean up a spill. It might still be used perhaps for the floor, as part of the floor, and it didn't reach. It's not called an action enough that if you require an action, so that's not called an action. So therefore, the Gemara wants to say is not in sync with the Rabbanan, the rabbis who say to remove a status of mukseh, you have to do an action in the item that was once mukseh. Amul Rav says no, it's not a contradiction. It could even go with the Rabbanan. I feel the Tem Rabbanan, even the rabbis that say that you need an action to remove an item from mukseh. Something you could do an action in. Something that you could do an action in. Like the wood, you could tie the wood. But something that you can't do an action in. What kind of action could you do in the dirt itself? There's nothing you could do in the dirt to show that now this dirt is standing for the purpose of absorbing a spill. There's nothing you could do in that. So therefore, if there's no action you can do, you're not going to require an action. What you require is just having the thought that you're going to. The thought there, the rabbis would agree, just like the rabbis would agree when it's a time of celebration or mourning, chas v'shalom, that you're allowed to go ahead and what? You don't require the action. It's good enough, the thought, right? When we had that story, told them just think about you can use it for a cushion. So too, in a situation where you don't have the ability to do an action in the item itself to show that it's being used for the permitted thing, just a thought is enough. Okay, we're going to be back, Bez Hashem, on Monday. Ralph, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you much for joining. Have a great Shabbat.
Shabbat shalom.
You too. All the best, everybody. The minyan, you're looking for the next minyan? It's Lamaila, 7:30. And upstairs, and then downstairs after minyan is a breakfast in class downstairs. A nice breakfast. You want to? What is that? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock minyan is here. Okay. And there's always this class. We have a Gemara class at 6:45 on Monday to Thursday, Friday. You're invited to come. And usually there's usually a 7:25 class right there. usually, I don't know if they're meeting today, but they usually also have class. Every minyan has a class, breakfast and class also afterwards.